I've been reading all the comments and stuff. 1,600 lawsuits filed in 4 days. What's the story?
So Hurricane Laura, made landfall in Louisiana in 2020. It was one of the most devastating, strongest hurricanes to ever make landfall. If that would have hit Houston or Miami, it would have killed thousands and thousands of people. It was that strong of a hurricane. And our firm really stepped up to help these people out. And I think we have something like 15,000 clients right now in Louisiana. And we're helping rebuild the state. And, a small percentage or, around 1,600, maybe 1,800 of those claimants are from Hurricane Laura. And so the statute of limitations ran and, we hadn't got money from the carriers. We hadn't got settlements done with the carriers yet. So we were forced to file lawsuits on some of these claims.
Well, all I read was statements from the judge, and they were pretty brutal. Like, why was he so aggressive towards you guys? Because the stuff he said was like, it's not gonna fly. I never want to see you in court. Like, I mean, you usually don't hear that from judges. What transpired? What went wrong?
Yeah, so you got to understand, Judge Kane is a great judge. I mean, he is for the people of Louisiana. His order reflects how he feels in his heart. He wants to protect the people of Louisiana. Unfortunately, there were some rumors swirling that our firm was engaging in global settlements. For those of y'all that don't know what global settlements are, that's where you take 10, 20, 30 claimants at a time, and you go to the insurance company and you say, I want 50,000 for every single client. And, you can't do that. That's not fair to the client. They're not getting the individual attention they need. What if one claim is worth 25,000 and another is worth 75,000? You can't just say, I'll take 50 on both, because then the person that had a $75,000 claim isn't treated fairly. So we had to explain to the judge that, look, Your Honor, we're not doing global settlements. We're actually putting in the time and the energy to mediate these on an individual basis. But because of the millions of dollars we've invested in technology and AI, I can mediate 100 individual cases a day. My team could actually probably do 500 a day if we were allowed to. But that's because we've put in the work, we've put in the time, and more importantly, we've built the processes to do that.
What's your answer to 40% rate being too high? Like, in his words, he said like other companies charging 25 and you guys charging 40 and you're not going to get it under his watch. How do you answer to that?
Judges are there to interpret laws, so whatever the judge says go, in my eyes. Some jurisdictions allow 50% contracts. Some allow you to go over 50%. I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong, but we will always do what a judge tells us to do.
Okay, so what's the verdict right now? What's the action? What's the next few steps? How the whole thing affected you already, and how are you going to change moving forward?
Yeah, so out of the, let's call it 1,700 cases that were in front of Judge Kane, he ordered us to produce the retainer agreement, so the contract we have with the insured, on every single one of those individuals. And we did that. We printed out the paper copies, we alphabetized them, and then we dropped them off at his office. He also made us run a report on certain cases. If we duplicatively filed them, that means if we filed a lawsuit twice, he made us run a report to say, hey, if you've already settled this case and you filed a lawsuit, to go ahead and let him know about that. And what we did is we found 98 instances that might have found or, fallen under his definition. Of that 98, 80 of those were lawsuits that we purposefully filed again because we had originally filed them as one lawsuit. So 80 plaintiffs in one lawsuit. And the judge dismissed that lawsuit. We thought since he dismissed it, we needed to refile each of those 80 cases again. He administratively, though, did that on his own. So that's why those 80 were there. 13 of those cases were cases that we intentionally double filed as well, because when we were running or when we were filing the cases, I should say, we got error notices on the website where you file lawsuits. And so to, be precautionary on our client's behalf, we said, well, we don't know if that was filed or not because we got an error. We have to file them again. We actually spent the money and paid to file those lawsuits again. And then, so that's 93. So of the 98 that we found fit his definition, 93 of them were those two instances. The 5 that were remaining were the 5 that fell outside of his geographical location. These are cases where we said, hey, so-and-so claim owner, the weather maps from Hailtrace show that you probably had a Hurricane Ida claim instead of a Hurricane Laura claim, but the clients were adamant that these claims were from Hurricane Laura instead of Hurricane Ida, and they instructed us to file Hurricane Laura lawsuits. So that's what we did. As you probably are aware, I, as an attorney, don't have the right to file a lawsuit on behalf of my client. It's the client that tells me to do that, and I have to do what the client says. So out of the 98 cases that we were supposed to be sanctioned for, we had 98 very reasonable reasons why those lawsuits were filed. We wrote a letter to the judge. We explained all of this. We're waiting for his response, but we're confident he'll see our logic and our reason. But really, improving our processes, your question on how to go forward, is we don't want to file lawsuits. We don't want to do that. We don't want to tie up the court's time and messing with this. We want to be proactive in reaching out to insurance companies, and we want to help them resolve these claims.
What's the main reason for denials right now? Because with the damage being so bad, I mean, what are the, arguments for insurance companies not to pay them?
Yeah, so insurance companies can be in a tough spot, especially in Louisiana. There's so many storms that sometimes it's hard to tell, oh, is this damage from this storm or is it from that storm? Or they say, look, we just don't have the money to pay out this minor damage. You as a contractor or me as a roofer's attorney might think, hey, this damage is, total. This roof needs to be replaced. It needs new decking, drip edge, everything. And the insurance company, they've just set boundaries where they say, no, we can't do that. So it's really about mending the gap and getting both sides at the table and saying, hey, look, guys, this is damage and this needs to be paid for. And unfortunately, there's training on both sides, the property owner representatives and the insurance company representatives that just aren't well trained enough to see what needs to be paid for and what doesn't. So oftentimes it's my job, it's defense counsel's jobs to go to that table and say, hey, look, guys, we have to come to an agreement.
How many claims did you settle? So you brought 1,600. How many cases were settled outside of that number? So how long you've been in Louisiana, and how many you actually already completed and done?
Yeah, so in Louisiana, we've been heavily active in the residential market for a little over a year. I think we've resolved over 3,000 claims. We have probably another 3,000 that will resolve, in the next 3 to 6 months. But our goal is to help 50,000 people in Louisiana. 50, we want to help rebuild Louisiana. That's our goal. Louisiana got hit with 4 hurricanes in a 15-month period. They need help. They need people fighting for them.
I wanted to hear your side. What transpired? Why so bold? I mean, the statements were so aggressive, I would call them. And, he was schooling you in a sense. Of course, I wasn't there. I don't know if there's something led to it, if there's something behind the story or led to it. Because I've been in courts many times, and usually judges don't act like that. They don't tell, lawyers hey, you're not going to come to this court with this. And the way I read it, it was almost like a threat, because he was talking about Florida, contacting other people. He went above and beyond with his message. And I'm like, what really happened? I wanted to know.
I believe it was Zuckerberg that said, change is always met with resistance. My firm is doing things that have never been done in quantities that have never been done. We are helping more people than have ever been helped by a plaintiff's attorney in the history of storm. What if I wasn't there? What would those people have done if there was no one fighting for them? If they had never hired an attorney, never hired a public adjuster, never got with a good contractor? Where would they be? And that's the message that we ended the conversation with Judge Kane. And I think he took it very well. It was at the very end of the transcript. I'm sure you've read it, but that's really the message we want to send home. What if those clients never got representation? And not just from my law firm, but any law. What would they have done? What would they have been left with?
Got it. All right, man. Thanks for sharing. Good luck with everything, guys.